Back in 1970, I had worked for Armstrong for 10 years. I decided that I wanted to do something else. I was an accountant went to F&M. And I had a neighbor who was involved in selling, he was a manufacturer's rep. He was selling Pennsylvania mowers, and he wanted to set up a parts business, and he invited me to join him. And I thought, well, I'll give this a try, but if it doesn't work, I can always get another job as an accountant. Started with $3,000 in my checking account. My father-in-law co-signed a note for me for $20,000 so that I could get some parts and get going. And that's how we started. For 3 years, we worked together, and he decided that this wasn't working, and he wanted to get out. So I said, well, I'm going to keep it going. And so I bought him out, and that's how the company got started.
I remember the original warehouse, going over there, over on Harrisburg Pike.
800 square foot warehouse.
800 square foot warehouse on Harrisburg Pike. I remember going over there and playing in the boxes as a kid. The second warehouse that you had was in East Petersburg.
Yeah, it was an old tobacco warehouse.
Yeah, an old tobacco warehouse. Now that one I really remember playing in because they had a conveyor belt that went from the first floor to the second floor. So my sister and I used to ride up and down the conveyor belt.
Things you can't do nowadays.
Yeah, it was probably pretty dangerous. In fact, at one point, Tim Martin, one of our retired employees, said he pulled the fuse out so that it wouldn't work because he was afraid we were going to hurt ourselves. But
Did you ever think, was it ever in your mind where, it was just another job? Or did you think, oh, my father is running a startup company with some risk? And
I don't know how much I really understood back then what he was. I mean, I remember in school when they would ask me what your father does, I would say he was a traveling salesman, which is, I guess, what you were, but but what he really was running a business.
I remember when you graduated, I asked you, do you want to join me in the business, or do you want to go do something else first and then come back? You thought about it for a while and told me that I'd be crazy not to come join you. And
Was that high school or college?
college.
Oh, college, yeah. I guess I waited for a while before I told you I would come. So once I graduated college, I worked in the warehouse for another summer because they needed me there. And then I immediately went out and I had a territory on the road. Talk about a green salesman. I touched a lot of areas of the business as I moved up through, and that's experience that you can't buy.
The one thing that always surprises people when I explain to them, my story and the LEPCO story is the idea that my father-in-law, he started the company, from the ground up. And then at the age in his early 60s, he turned it over to his son. Now he's 86, still keeps an office, still comes in each day, which is always amazing.
We had what I would consider 3 different groups of people that were responsible for the manufacturers, because they expected us to do distribution more efficiently than they could do it themselves, and that's why we were successful in two-step distribution. But then the other one is the dealer had to make some money.
You beat that into my head.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I remember, is the dealer has to be successful. If he's not successful, then the whole thing falls apart.
And then, of course, what these guys have the problem, they have 90-some families that rely on lawn equipment parts for their living, and I always told them, if it's not fun when you get up and go to work, maybe you ought to look at something else that you would enjoy more.
There's nothing more important in our business than making sure our dealers are successful. That's job one. Because if that doesn't happen, we're not going to be successful. Our manufacturer's not going to be successful. That's our job. That's what we're expected to do by the dealer. The manufacturer understands that. We also need, on the flip side, we need the manufacturer to be successful also, and we need to make their life easier. So we got to look for pain points on both sides. We're always working two sides. We're working the manufacturer and we're working our dealers. And one thing I remember you telling me years ago was, identify those pain points and make life easier for them. Find out what keeps them up at night.
We really put our money where our mouth is there is with the inventory programs, especially with the dealers.
Yeah.
Inventory protection and
Performance rebate.
performance rebate.
Yeah.
It really is quite a chunk of change that we invest back into dealers to make sure they're successful.
And they're two separate programs, but one is sort of on the front end of the purchasing, and then the one's on the back end. So what we're doing is we're protecting the dealer up front, and we're protecting him if there's a mistake made in the ordering. So the performance rebate program, basically in a nutshell, is we sell in brackets. So when a dealer places his booking order, he gets locked in. Let's say if Echo E orders enough to get locked into bracket number 2, but throughout the year he places reorders, and maybe by the end of the year he's actually qualified for bracket 4 or bracket 5 based on his volume, but he's been buying all year long to bracket 2. What we do is we rebate him back to unit number 1 for the total amount of what he should have paid based on his final achieved bracket. So there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that we send back every year. He thought this program up back in I think it was 95 or something like that. It might have been before that. And he told me, okay, you got to make this happen.
What I'm always impressed with is just how much expertise, especially our sales force has.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew, because we talk about a win-win-win with the suppliers and the distributors and the dealers, but it's really a win-win-win-win because the end user has to be successful too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it starts there, and then it goes to the dealer, and then it goes to the distributor and the manufacturer. So we got four parties in the chain that all need to be successful, and one unsuccessful party breaks the chain.
In 1976, we took on Echo. We grew that, and then of course Exmark too, which we were talking about, was the two major lines we had for years. And there wasn't a salesman out there that was going to spend a lot of time trying to sell parts when he can sell a $7,000 lawnmower. Roger Smith was a rep, and he was selling a mower called Keys mowers, which is a zero turning radius mower. And there were 3 employees of Keys that weren't happy with the way things were going and decided to start their own company. And they invited Roger along, and Roger came and invited me along so the 5 of us set up the Exmark, and best move we ever made, quite frankly. But I spent a lot of time in airplanes going back and forth to
Nebraska.
the factory. Yeah.
So when you hear about companies like that just start up, they need somebody who can handle all facets. You have the sales side of it, the marketing side, the operations side. What part of that?
Tegmeyer was you.
Okay.
Bob Martin was him. Eldon Lewis was a manufacturer. He worked out in the factory, and then there's Roger's sales.
And you?
And me, I was financial, and I helped them setting up taking care of their employees and things like that. Which
I imagine you were involved in the distribution setup too.
Yeah, I was.
Over time, the company grew and was very successful to the point where it was a tough opportunity to turn down. I forget how you worded it. It kept growing and growing, and then we got new territories and new brands, and I looked at it and I said, this would be a good place to work.
I heard these stories he went away to the West Coast. So he went to school at UCLA. So, and the stories I always heard were how much fun he was having, how much he was challenged, how he loved the lifestyle, how he loved the people out there. And even though LEPCO was going to be a great opportunity, to work with his father and his grandfather and his uncle, I wasn't sure that we'd ever get him back to the East Coast. So myself and Jem were extremely happy when Jeff shared with us that his plan was to move, back home and to work here at least for a while and see how things went. So
I do really like Lancaster. I really like the town. I like how involved the Clarks and Hessingers are. The sports we're involved in, the charities we're involved in, the businesses, the organizations. Really well connected throughout the community. Yeah, I've loved living in Lancaster as well as working for LEPCO. I
grew up around here, so like Andrew said, I love Lancaster. I went away to Penn State for 4 years. I majored in supply chain. So my plan was to move back to Lancaster for a short period of time, save some money, pay off my college loans, and then eventually move out to Washington, Chicago, New York, something like that, and live that. I didn't think it would be long term, but I wanted to at least experience it and put it on my checklist. And then I was very fortunate to meet my future wife. I'm not sure who it was or who reached out to me, but I met Jeff and Merrell for lunch one day. And I was like, oh, what's this all about? So I thought I was going to be told that, I got to take care of his daughter, his sister, and all this stuff. But they just wanted to talk to me about LEPCO, potential job opportunity, check and see if I have any interest. From my background, it fit well because I was supply chain. So I understood how to wholesale product, shipping, receiving, and all that kind of stuff, procurement. They explained to me what my role would be. The best thing they did for me is, as Jeff has said about himself, and Merrell obviously said about himself, they exposed me to all facets of the company. So when I came on board, I started, they handed me the keys to a truck, and I had all the trailers out there and I could put equipment on, and I was on the road showing product to landscapers, homeowners, and so forth. So I have to be honest, it was not something I excelled at, and it was not something I enjoyed. As Merrell said, you got to wake up in the morning and enjoy what you're doing. So, but I knew it was just part of the process. It's been a great experience for me. I've been here almost 28 years now, and time has just flown by.
Following in his footsteps it's been really awesome, and I think I give credit to him for that, because he wasn't one to micromanage me. He wasn't hovering over me. He let me make the mistakes that I made. He never let me make a critical mistake, but you're going to make mistakes along the way, and decisions that might not be sound. But there is some pressure, obviously. Pressure is a privilege, right? I try to do the same thing with as Andrew's coming through the business. I'm not hovering over him if he has questions, or if I have things I want him to be exposed to. I certainly have him involved in those parts of the business. I think a lot of the way I handle it is the way he handled me.
Yeah, and I'd say it's the way that he's handled me then.
Yeah.
I was never pushed into it. It was never something that my dad said I had to get into. So over time, just kind of grew into it and see where life takes me. Not to downplay my dad's impact, but there's been a lot of good people to learn from in this company over time.
Your management team now is awesome. I like.
Yeah. Well, you think back, I'll leave names out, but you got Tim Martin, you got Bill Haggis, you got Tom Garvey, Walt Stoltz, Eric Nelson, Doug Ulmer, Bob Brown.
Yeah.
You can just roll through all kinds of
I was
names.
very fortunate.
Phil Stone, everybody who worked in this company and spent many, many years here helped to build it into what it was, and that challenge continues. But they're the ones who really make it happen.
I am very impressed and very happy with what we have here. And as Jeff says, he's just like his dad. I mean, he challenges employees, to improve things, to come up with new ideas.
My vision of the future is to continue looking for opportunities to grow the business, and they present themselves at times. We need to be able to jump on them and take advantage of them, because I think one of the important things for our employees here is to feel like there are opportunities for the business to grow, for them to grow, and for it not to become static.
Yeah, I think that over time, that's the main goal of us, is to find challenges, find opportunities to give to our workers, and then find the right people to work and grow with over the next, for me, hopefully a few decades, and grow as a company, and, increase our impact within the community, within our dealerships and vendors.
We have a culture of continuous improvement here, and we're always trying to find the next best way to do something.
That old adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So I think a lot of what Merrell and Jeff have established are great practices, processes, procedures, and all that.
What I'm sitting here today versus what I started 53 years ago I couldn't dream it. And I'm very proud of everybody in this room. I think that they got a bright future, and I think it's awesome.
We are LEPCO.